Hello and welcome to the Commander's Quarters, your Magic the Gathering source that helps you command your budget. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCGPLAYER affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all their support. Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from the Commander's Quarters studio. Welcome to the show. Before we get started, I just want to say a big thanks to Wizards for sending me over this free preview content, because that's right, I've got an exclusive spoiler from Zendikar Rising for you. So, without further ado, let's jump into it. Skyclave Relic is an artifact that costs 3 and it's got kicker 3. It has Indestructible, and when it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, create 2 tap tokens that are copies of Skyclave Relic. And it taps for 1 mana of any color. So there's actually a decent amount to take in with this brand new mana rock, so let's break it down. So if we need to play this early, we can, as a mana rock that costs 3 and taps for 1, and it's indestructible. But there's also some flexibility to it if you happen to get it later in the game. If you've got the mana to kick it, suddenly you've got 3 copies of it, although 2 do come into play tapped. So you can tap that original for mana if you've got anything else to spend on it, but you're essentially going to be waiting another turn to untap all 3. When you do, you essentially paid 6 mana to tap for 3 mana of any 3 colors. Now, of course, it's not really as simple as that since you can spread that mana out or tap them on different turns, but you get the gist. To my knowledge, this is the only mana rock that can actually make copies of itself. Kicking to copy is a very unique thing, although we have seen that with Jace Mirrormage, which was already spoiled from Zendikar Rising. Jace Mirrormage has kicker 2, and when it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, create a token that's a copy of Jace Mirrormage, except it's not legendary and its starting loyalty is 1. So like Skyclave Relic, Jace creates a copy, and those copies are going to be slightly different than the original. In the case of Jace, it's not legendary, which is needed for it to stick around, and it starts off with 1 loyalty instead of 4. In the case of the Relic, those copies come into play tapped, which is very significant. But I'll talk about that point further when I get to my evaluation of the card. For now, let's talk about some similar mana rocks that Skyclave Relic definitely took some inspiration from. In my eyes, it's essentially a combination of Darksteel Ingot and Everflowing Chalice. Well, kind of. At a base level, if you don't kick it and you just cast it for 3, it's a direct reprint of Darksteel Ingot. A mana rock that costs 3 is indestructible and taps to add 1 mana of any color. And Darksteel Ingot does see a decent amount of play in Commander right now at around 11% of decks. But unlike Darksteel Ingot, it does have flexibility, so it is an upgrade. And again, that flexibility is somewhat reminiscent of Everflowing Chalice. Everflowing Chalice is an artifact that costs 0 and it's got multi-kicker 2. It's going to enter the battlefield with a charge counter on it for each time it was kicked, and it's going to tap for colors for each charge counter on it. So you can essentially cast it for 2, 4, 6, 8, whatever you want to cast it for, and it's going to give you half the amount of mana that you put into it. Now, obviously, multi-kicker is another layer of flexibility above kicker, but still, it's close enough of a comparison for me. Regardless, to my knowledge, I believe that Skyclave Relic is the second mana rock that has kicker in the history of Magic. And flexibility is always a good thing. Now, you can cast Everflowing Chalice for 2 mana instead of 3 like Skyclave Relic, but if you're casting both for 6, they essentially tap for the same amount. But one difference is that Everflowing Chalice can tap right away, although it's just for colorless mana. The original Skyclave Relic can tap, but the other 2 copies enter the battlefield tapped. So that's a difference of 2 mana for that first turn, which is significant. But after that first turn, Skyclave Relic definitely has a leg up in that it can tap for 3 mana of 3 different colors at 3 different times. Again, I'm oversimplifying the card and what it does, but you get what I mean. On top of that, it's indestructible, so it's harder to deal with, and it's a safer form of ramp. Another somewhat similar card for comparison's sake is Astral Cornucopia. It's an artifact that costs XXX and enters the battlefield with X charge counters on it. You can tap it and choose a color and add 1 mana of that color for each charge counter on it. So this is another flexible mana rock that you can cast for 3, and it taps for 1 mana of any color. But if you cast it for 6, it can only tap for 2, but it can do that right away. One thing that I should mention though is that Astral Cornucopia and Everflowing Chalice do have a slight benefit that if you get more charge counters on them, they can help you even more. So these can really come in handy for a commander like Atraxa. But again, at a base level, if you are kicking Skyclave Relic, you are going to get more mana than Astral Cornucopia. When it comes to mana rocks that see play in Commander that tap for 3, we've got things like Basalt Monolith, Therian Dynamo, and Gilded Lotus. Basalt Monolith costs 3 and taps for colorless, but it doesn't untap during your untap step, but you can pay 3 to untap it. Mainly, this can be either a way to ramp quickly and then untap it with other effects, or it can be an infinite combo piece. And then Therian Dynamo taps for the same and costs 4. Now, if you want a mana rock that taps for 3 mana of any color, you've got Gilded Lotus that taps for 5. So when comparing Skyclave Relic to Gilded Lotus, there's some similarities, but some major differences as well. First off, again, Skyclave Relic is flexible in that you can cast it for 3 and it's going to tap for 1. With Gilded Lotus, you're stuck at paying 5 for it, but it's going to give you 3 mana of any one color right away. So basically you pay 5, it taps for 3, and it kind of costs 2 at the end of the day. If we're kicking Skyclave Relic, it technically costs us 6, and we can only tap that original for 1, so it basically costs us 5. So it does have that lower end flexibility, but it doesn't have that immediate impact. But again, it does have those benefits of being indestructible and being able to tap for 3 mana of 3 colors at different times. But now let's get to my actual evaluation of this card. At the end of the day, is this card good? Is it going to see play? Here's my thoughts on it. If you've been watching this channel for a while, you've probably heard me talk about the importance of ramping efficiently. Now, in colors outside of green, you really don't have access to any good land ramp cards outside of Wayfarer's Bauble. And because of that, you need to lean on mana rocks, and it's important to focus on mana rocks that are efficient. In my opinion, efficient means that you get half the amount of mana that you put into the mana rock. And the most important turn to ramp, in my opinion, is turn 2. And yes, Soul Ring is great, but you're not always going to have that in your opening hand. So mana rocks like Signets, the Talismans, and even ones like Prismatic Lens are huge. To me, getting at least half as much mana back out of your mana rocks and ramping on turn 2 is incredibly important, so those are definitely knocks against Skyclave Relic. But that being said, it is a strict upgrade to Darksteel Ingot, which does see play. It's just my opinion, and it might be great in some groups, but I do think Darksteel Ingot is a bit overplayed. Regardless, if you are kicking Skyclave Relic, it does give you half the amount of mana that you put into it back, though not right away. And again, like Darksteel Ingot, it is a safer form of ramp. So in my opinion, if you run Darksteel Ingot and you really like it, then yes, this is a strict upgrade and you should be running this either instead or alongside of. But if you're focusing on more efficient forms of ramp, I don't think it makes the cut. Yes, it does have flexibility, but later in the game when you're trying to cast other spells, you pretty much have to take an entire turn off to kick it. That being said, I don't think it's a bad card by any means, and I really like this new direction that Wizards took with the Mana Rock. It can be played early-ish, it is flexible, and it does make copies of itself. Now, I haven't mentioned this yet, and I probably should have, but the fact that you're getting 3 artifacts from 1 card is significant for certain decks. So some decks that would definitely want to consider this card are Brutaclad, Saheeli the Gifted, and Brea. With Brutaclad, you can essentially turn all your tokens into copies of Skyclave Relic, so indestructible mana rocks everywhere is pretty good. With Saheeli, the more artifacts they have on the field, the less that your next one's going to cost to cast. And Brea likes to chuck artifacts at people, so yeah. Also, the fact that it's a flexible mana rock can really come in handy in a deck like Kozilek. You're running a ton of mana rocks in that deck, and if you need it early, that's okay, and if you need it later, that's even better. And of course, you can probably find a spot in Halar the Firefletcher, because it does have Kicker. Again, I'm not trying to hate on Skyclave Relic and say that it's not good. On the contrary, I'm happy that it's not auto-include like Arcane Signet. I definitely appreciate that Wizards is trying some new things with mana rocks like this one. And I know that there's going to be a ton of players that love this card and want it in a lot of their decks. I do think that with a small tweak or two, it would definitely be one that I would consider for more decks. For instance, if those copies came into play untapped, that would be a big difference. Because essentially your kicker cost would be paid just by casting it. Kind of like a Grow from the Ashes. Again though, I definitely could be wrong and could be undervaluing this card. Regardless, again, I just want to say a big thanks to Wizards for sending over this free preview content. And with that, this show has come to a close, so it's my turn to hear from you. So in the comments below, let me know what your thoughts on Skyclave Relic are. Are there any decks that you're looking to put it into? So yeah, let me know in the comments below, and as always, thanks again, and have a good one.